Good evening. I'd like to call the March 4th City Council meeting to order. Item number 2, we have an invocation by Ward 5, Councilmember Craig.
Thank you. Our Heavenly Father, we are so grateful for this day. We're thankful for the opportunity that we have to gather tonight, and we are truly grateful for this city and for the many blessings that we have been given. We ask at this time for a special blessing upon this council and upon all of our city employees, upon the citizens of the city, and also especially on our military and our first responders. Bless us with inspiration, bless us with spirit, and we also ask for protection and guidance in all that we do. We say this in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.
You stand for the pledge.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ask the clerk to call the roll.
Councilmember Smith.
Present.
Councilmember Stallings.
Present.
Councilmember Marsh.
Here.
Councilmember Crabtree.
Here.
Councilmember Craig.
Here.
Councilmember Martin. Councilmember Sumner.
Here.
Councilmember Meek.
Here.
Councilmember Bogard.
Present.
Councilmember Velez.
Here.
Councilmember Bell.
Here.
Councilmember Droude.
Here.
And we have a quorum.
All right. And next item is awards and recognitions. There are not any awards and recognitions, so move on to the next item is public comments. If anyone has any public comments would like to make, please move to the podium, state your name and address for the record. Being none, there's no public comments. Move on to the mayor comments. There's no mayor comments. I'd just like to say it's a pleasure to serve in Mayor Knight spot tonight. He's in DC advocating for Fort Campbell. And that's all the comments we have for mayor comments. We'll move on to item 8, which is reports from officers, committees, and guest speakers. We have Kelly Webb with York Neal and Company. And we have 2 audit binders, which were provided to City Council in our packet.
Hi, this is the fastest I've ever been up here. Wow. We're just booking on through. Okay, my name is Kelly Webb. I'm a CPA and a partner at York Neal and Associates. We conducted the city's financial statement audit for the year ended June 30th, 2024. I need to speak up. Yep, sorry. All righty. The audit report's in front of you. You have the general purpose financial statements, which is the blue binder. This is the report we're going to be sticking to and going through. It is made up of the independent auditor's report, which gives our opinion on the audit, the management's discussion and analysis, the basic financial statements, required supplementary information, other supplementary information, and then the single audit. The second report in front of you is the annual comprehensive financial report, or the ACFR. It's the one with the black binding, it's just a little bit bigger. This is a special report that the city submits to the GFOA each year in hopes of getting the Certificate of Excellence Award. So this is awarded if the report meets certain standards. The city did receive this award for their prior year report for June 30th, 2023, and they have received this award 29 times. So we expect that to be awarded again this year, but we won't know until later this year. It includes everything that the general purpose financial statements has, but it also has an introductory section in the beginning that includes a letter from Melissa Clayton. And at the end, there are capital assets as well as a statistical section, which is 19 tables of miscellaneous information, financial and demographic information. So we're going to stick to the smaller report that's only 150 pages and the blue report, the general purpose financial statements. So the part you're probably most interested in, the part you're probably most interested in is the opinions section. So that is page 1 of that report and has our letterhead in the front. First the first section is opinions. So the first paragraph talks about what we looked at when we were doing our audit. So we audited the financial statements of the governmental activities, which is looking at the financial statements for the government as a whole, or government-wide financial statements. The aggregate discretely presenting component units. We also look at the financial statements of your component units, which is HWA, solid waste, and stormwater. We look at each major fund, which is always the general fund, and this year it was also the grants fund. And then the aggregate remaining fund information, so all the other fund information, and the related notes to the financial statements. The second paragraph is our opinion. In our opinion, the financial statements referred to above present fairly, in all material respects, the financial position of the city as of June 30th, 2024, and the respective changes in financial position for the year that ended in accordance with generally accepted accounting principles. So that's your clean audit opinion. There's no additional parts to that. Everything is unmodified. The rest of our report, for these few pages, it includes the basis for our opinions, management's responsibilities, the auditor's responsibilities, and then other sections in the report. Following those pages is the management's discussion and analysis. That is a summary of the financial statements and also an analysis of the entire report. And it's really helpful for understanding what this 150 pages is for. So if you don't read anything else, that might be a handy thing to read. All right, cities have two types of financial reports that they have to give. There's the government-wide financial statements, and that's like on an accrual basis of accounting. It presents all the assets, including the capital assets of the city, and then all the liabilities, including long-term debt. So that's similar to what you would see in a business financial statements balance sheet or business financial statements. Their statements are called a statement of net position, which is like a balance sheet, and the statement of activities, which is like a P&L but looks a lot different. Then you have fund financial statements. That's what you guys normally see on your monthly reports. Those are looking more at current assets and current liabilities. So that's called a modified accrual basis of accounting. So you have a balance sheet, but it's only going to have your current assets and your current liabilities for the most part. Then you have a statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance. And then that's like a profit and loss statement, just on a different basis of accounting. So we'll start with the government-wide financial statements. The first one is the statement of net position. In your blue bonded reports, that is page 18. I have up here the summary. It's a condensed, because the financial statement's actually really big, but just for some of the more important items or larger items up there. Now remember, this is the accrual basis, so it includes all assets and all liabilities. Also, if you are looking at page 18, you're going to see two columns. There's the primary government column. That's everything for the city. The component units column is those three component units that we mentioned, HWA, solid waste, and stormwater. So their stuff's kind of off to the side, called a discretely presented component unit. So in this condensed version, the city's total assets are around $129 million. Of that $129 million, about $57 million is capital assets. Also included in that is about $33 million that's due from component units. That is debt that is in the city's name that's actually for the component units. Since it's in the city's name, you guys are ultimately responsible, and therefore it's in your liabilities. However, the component units are going to be paying for that. So this is sort of an offset. So when you see your debt number, just know $33 million is going to be paid by someone else. Then you get deferred outflows of resources, which is a lot of words for timing differences. There are timing differences, deferred outflows and deferred inflows, as you'll see on the next slide, and those are related to pensions and OPEB. It's really complicated and they make it harder than it should be, but those are timing differences. So the second page of the statement of net position, page 19, has your total liabilities, which is $119 million. which is mainly debt, as we said. And then you also have the deferred inflows of resources, which is about 25 million, again, primarily related to pensions and OPEB. OPEB is other post-employment benefits. That's insurance, health insurance, once you retire. To get to your net position, that's the bottom of page 19. So your assets minus your liabilities give you your net position, or what in the business world we would look at that as equity. Now, when we look at assets minus liabilities, you get a net position deficit of 3 million. That is not unheard of for governments. It's not ideal, but it's expected. Why is it negative? Long-term liabilities. You have a $50 million pension liability, which I know y'all have heard a lot about. It's going to be due one day, but it's going to be due over a long period of time. But we have to present the entire amount. So that's why you have a net deficit right there. And again, not completely unheard of, and not that big of a deal. You want to look at your fund financial statements too. And that looks a lot better. So you will also see when we go to the next slide, the net deficit has gone down a great deal. So that's great too. All right. The next page is the statement of activities. Okay, if you were looking at page 20, that is the statement of activities. And it's like a profit and loss statement, but it's not one that looks probably familiar to you at all, because this is a special structure that is unique to city governments. So if you're looking at that statement, it's going to look funny. It starts out with a column that for all the expenses related to programs. And then you have revenues, but only the ones that are specifically tied to a program. And then you get to a net expense. So it looks like, you don't have enough income coming in. But then you pull in the general revenues, and that's all the property taxes, the payroll taxes, all taxes and licenses that cover all these other functions that the government has. So I did this condensed statement to make it way more understandable than this other one. Start with your program revenues. It's about 24 million. Program expenses, which are all expenses of the government, is 48 million. To get your net expense for programs of a negative 24 million. But then you have general revenues from your property taxes and license that cover 39 million of it, which means your total revenues over total expenses is 15 million in the positive. And just like we talked about that beginning net position, that beginning equity, last year it was a deficit of almost 18 million. This year it's less than 3 million. So it's gone down a great deal in 2024. And a lot of it is subjective. It's due to that pension and OPEB liabilities, stuff you have no control over. And then there's also, you had a good year, which we'll see in the fund financials as well. So that is the government-wide financial statements. That's the accrual. That tells you everything as a whole, but it doesn't, it's not anything like what you're used to seeing. So we'll switch to the fund financial statements. And this is what you guys normally see. If you turn to page 21, that is the balance sheet. Again, it looks different than what I have up here because on that report, we report it for there's several columns. There's a column for the general fund. There's a column for any other major programs. The other major program this year was the grants fund. So it has a special column. And then every other fund of the government goes into that non-major governmental funds column to get to the total governmental funds, which is the large majority of what type of funds you guys have. So my condensed amounts up here are going to be the total governmental funds. Okay, total assets. As we said before with fund financial statements, this is looking at current liabilities and current assets. So it's not going to have that long-term focus. It's more concerned with current transactions in the immediate future or the next year's worth of assets and liabilities. So Your assets there, when you're just looking at cash and investments and receivables, is about 38 million. Liabilities and the deferred inflows, that's about 3 million. It leaves you with a fund balance of 35 million. That's like, again, that's just another word for essentially equity. Of that 35 million, about 18 million has a designated purpose. It's restricted, it's committed, or it's encumbranced. The other 17 million is unassigned. There's no designation for it at this time. And that's a good fund balance. The next slide is the statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balances for the governmental funds. That is page 23 if you're looking at the detail. This looks a whole lot more like a profit and loss statement that most people are familiar with. Total revenues, 63 million, total expenditures of 61 million. Notice in the expenditures, it's summarized according to government functions. So we have general government, public safety, but the bottom two lines of that, there's debt service. That is how much was paid out in debt payments during the year. And capital outlay, that's how much was purchased or capitalized or constructed during the current year. So taking the majority of the revenues minus expenditures, you get revenues over expenditures of almost 2 million. Following on that is some other financing sources and uses. You guys had about $4 million in debt proceeds under this method of accounting that gets added in as revenues. So your total change in fund balances or net income is about $6 million. So your fund balance increased to 35 million. And like I said, that's what you're probably used to seeing. That looks really good. That's it for the main financial statements. Now there's other stuff in here. When you keep turning pages, there are reconciliations that get you from the one basis of accounting to the other basis of accounting. That is on page 22 and 24. I'm going ahead of my notes here. Let's see. Okay. And there's proprietary fund financial statements. The only proprietary fund you have is an internal service fund for employee health insurance. There's a fiduciary fund financial statement. The only one you have of that is the police and firefighters pension fund. That is just a small pension fund that was before you guys joined SERS. There's only 11 retired participants still in that plan. And then you'll have the component unit financial statements, which is the 3 component units we said. They, their financial statements are presented a little bit differently so that you can see how it flows into the government-wide financial statements. After that is the notes to the financial statements, which is a large part of this report. I have on the slides just a couple of notes you might be interested in. Note 4 gives you capital assets. Note 5 has a lot of detail on debt. Most people are curious about that. Note 7 and 8 gives you all the information you'd ever want to know on pension and OPEB. Note 13 is commitments of the city, and note 15 is related party transactions. This is mainly transactions with component units and then transactions between the component units. And note 16 is subsequent events, which is anything happening after the financial report, which is June 30th, 2024, through the date of our report, which was January 31st, 2025. So all of these notes are for the city, but they also are for all the component units. So if you're reading through there, you'll see a lot of notes for the component units as well. Other items in the report, there's required supplementary informations that we're required to present. There's a budgetary comparison schedule, lots of pension and OPEB schedules. There's combining fund financial statements, which shows how the individual funds get added together to be on the basic financial statements just as one big total. And then there's the single audit. So a single audit has to be done if an organization spends more than $750,000 in federal funds. Now that is spending in federal funds, not the revenue that you get in. So you did have more than $750,000. It was $824,000. This is the list of the federal spending that was in this year end. Of that amount, 241,000 was passed through to HWA. So that was more because it was in the city's name, but it was for a HWA project. So it got passed through. The CDBG fund was the only major fund. Major funds have to be tested just a little bit more when doing the single audit. And the tail end of this report is there's a report on internal control and on compliance and other matters. There were no deficiencies noted. There were no instances of noncompliance or other matters noted. This is a report that all governments have to do. So nothing noteworthy in there. The second or the very last report is the report on compliance for major programs and on internal control over compliance. This is a report required for the single audit. There were no deficiencies noted there. And it has its own opinion, and that is that the city complied in all material respects with the types of compliance requirements referred to in the report that could have a direct and material effect on its major federal program, which was CDBG. So that was a whirlwind of information, 150 pages in just a few minutes. The two reports in front of you, in addition to that, you should have a letter for governance. It's just a loose paper with our letterhead on it. This is just standard information that we're required to disclose to you. There's nothing noteworthy, nothing other than the standard language. Everything went fine. And there is a summary, one-page summary. This will show you where all the cash and the fund balance and the debt, where those numbers are and where you can find them on the general purpose financial statement. So where it's at in the blue binder. So a lot at once. Does anybody have any questions? Okay. I have my contact information up there. If you, I know that was a lot. If anybody does want to contact me about anything specific or go anything in more detail, or Kelly, slow down, that was way too fast. You can contact me at York Neal or email me. And with that, I just want to say thank you. Thank you to the mayor and to city council for letting us do this audit. Thank you to Melissa and her staff for working with us so well and answering our many questions, and we drive them nuts asking for information. So they're always glad when we leave, but they do a great job. So, all right, if y'all need anything, let me know.
All right, thank you, Kelly. All right, next on the agenda is approval of minutes, February 20th special call meeting. Need a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Motion by Amy, second by Mr. Marsh. Next will be item 10, municipal orders. Oh, I'm sorry about that. All in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? That passes. And we move on to municipal orders. And we have call on Kelly. I said Kelly. Call on the clerk to read the MO.
Whereas the city of Hopkinsville has been notified of the availability of grant funds through the Assistance to Firefighters Grant, a program of the Federal Emergency Management Agency. And whereas these funds are intended for use towards the Deep South fire trucks on the Class 5 brush truck. And whereas the total project cost is estimated at $309,750, and whereas the grant requirements stipulate a 20% match of funds. Now therefore be it ordered, Hopkinsville City Council authorizes 20% matching funds up to $61,950, and further authorizes the mayor to sign the Assistance to Firefighters Grant documents, memorandum of agreement, and all related documents for the operations and safety equipment for the Deep South fire trucks on the Class 5 brush truck.
So moved.
And then item B, municipal order. We need to vote on that. All in favor?
Aye.
Nay. Pass. And we go to item B, municipal order 1025, Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development Grant.
Whereas the City of Hopkinsville was awarded a $7 million grant through the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development, and whereas these funds were used towards the design and construction of the roadway system and rail spur of Commerce Part 2, and whereas the total project was $10,996,734.18, and whereas the grant requirement stipulated up to $4 million of matching funds, and whereas City Council previously passed Municipal Order 55-2022 authorizing $3,642,000, Municipal Order 09-2023 authorizing $61,200, and Municipal Order 39-2023 authorizing $107,440 in matching funds. Now therefore be it ordered, Hopkinsville City Council authorizes $204,130.34 in local matching funds for the Kentucky Cabinet for Economic Development Grant.
Need a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
No nays, that passes. We on to item C, Municipal Order 11-2025, Interfund Transfer, Retail Convention.
Hopkinsville City Council hereby authorizes transferring $25,000 from the Interfund Transfer account 1010.800.5490 to the following administration accounts: $8,000 to the Advertising and Marketing account 1010.105.5205, $6,000 to the Professional Fees account 1010.105.5210, and $11,000 to the Travel and Lodging account 1010.105.5225 to attend the International Council of Shopping Centers Retail Recruitment Summit.
Accept.
Second.
Motion, who's it? Brandon. All in favor? Any discussion?
How many people are going to this?
Mayor be taking 5 people with them. This is organized by the mayor of Madisonville. It's including several cities. Just a new approach to small business. And as the new council members, the mayor's only allowed to spend $7,500 out of his interfund. Anything over that, we need permission from you guys. So this is what this is, asking for permission to take this trip. Carter Hendricks, Holly, Taylor from the chamber, Nikki, mayor's assistant, I may be forgetting one, and the mayor himself.
So the city is paying for everybody?
We're paying for our people. We're not paying for Madisonville or E-Town or the other cities.
Okay.
No, we're not that generous.
SWK.
We are paying for the people from Hopkinsville, yes. The mayor is inviting them. And the purpose of that is, at this conference, people, when we're trying to lure these retail businesses and so forth, we're taking the people who can answer the questions on the spot. Not, we'll get back to you later. So Carter, Taylor, and Holly, they have any kind of questions on incentives and so forth. So we want to be able to answer them right then and there and try to lure them to come to town.
Thankful for the mayor to go and represent Hopkinsville in this way. And in the final analysis, thank you, Holly, for going. I was just going to say that when you realize that Carter and Taylor are actually parts of the economic recruitment team for Hopkinsville, it's a reasonable expense.
Yeah, and it's nice to step outside the industrial park and look at smaller businesses.
Yeah.
Discussion? All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Any nays? That also passes. On to item 11, other. Do any members have any business to bring? Nothing under other, so we move on to number 12, council member comments. No council member comments. Y'all making it real easy for me. I messed up with that. Move on to item 13, adjournment, Ward 5, Miss Amy Craig.
All right, I'm going to keep it short and sweet. I'm going to share with you a quote by Winston Churchill. And he said, "We make a living by what we get, but we make a life by what we give." And with that, I'd like to make a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
Be adjourned. Thank you.